Hello world, this is Shruti Pandey, and today I have with me a crazy, and a dangerous human friend that I have, which is Ajay. He's again one of the amazing entrepreneurs and founders that I find in today's world, and I'm so happy that we are finally recording this podcast and not just talking and catching up. So thank you so much, Ajay. Thank you.
Thanks, Shruti. Thanks for inviting me. So the whole world also should know that we've tried it 3 times, and this is the fourth time we got lucky in recording this podcast.
I think our conversations were so amazing, right? And I now I'm feeling guilty and embarrassed both at the same time because with these podcasts, it so happens that whoever I'm interviewing, most of them we end up talking more before and after. And I hope I'm still giving enough value to people because I want them to get the most out of the wisdom that you guys have. So thank
I
you.
think you're making it better because you understand the whole spectrum of whoever the audience are, and then try to pick the best qualities for your listeners and for your viewers, and that's the best thing that can happen in a podcast.
Thank you. Thank you. It means a lot, coming from a fellow Indian. It feels so amazing. I mean, while it's so amazing when people from all over the world tell good things about me, and I don't pay them for it. Neither they do pay me for it. But it's so good to finally listen to something nice about yourself coming from a fellow Indian. And of course, I have a lot of good things about you, which is why I wanted you to be on this podcast. And I've created my 3 crazy questions for you. Are you ready?
Mhm. Yes,
Otherwise,
I am ready.
we'll again get back into our talking mode, and this would go for a toss. I don't want that to happen.
We'll stay focused on the questions. I can be more open towards my answers for those
Yes.
questions, and then we can take it from there.
Yeah, because I might have follow-up questions. I'm infamous for that. So
Absolutely.
let's do this. My first question for you is, I have seen you writing on your LinkedIn profile or you implying about something called as SaaS Sales 3.0. What the
Mhm.
hell is that? What is SaaS Sales 3.0?
It's pretty interesting. It's pretty good. And if we are better observers than operators, I think all of us will also understand what SaaS Sales 3.0 is. So let me take all of you to a time and point where Oracles and IBMs sold softwares. And predominantly what they did was they walked into certain companies, knocked on the CEO's doors, and then tried to sell those softwares there. So that point in time, it was completely direct selling, and it was primarily focused towards the C-level executives. That's what I term as SaaS, not SaaS, but Sales 1.0.
Yeah.
And fast forward to 2000s when companies like Salesforce stripped the CRM from on-premises and then put it on cloud. So during those times is when LinkedIn, companies like LinkedIn also popped up. So what Salesforce did is try to reach out to the functional leaders rather than the C-level executives through social platforms like LinkedIn in order to drive the value better. And what happened is that sales also evolved to include pre-sales. What essentially it means is that sales guys took care of the business closure, whereas pre-sales guys completely gave the value in terms of how the product could fit in their ecosystem with cloud being in existence, and then drove the value home. So that's what I term as SaaS Sales 2.0. And this was primarily focused towards the functional leaders. So right now, here we are, where companies like Freshworks and ChargeBee, Zoho, all of these guys are selling to SMBs from cloud. And this is the times where the users directly have access to those tools to trial it out. And pre-sales also have a better conversation in terms of helping them drive the value during the trial period before they convert into a customer. So this is what I term as SaaS Sales 3.0, because this is driven to product-led sales for the users themselves, who convert into influencers within the organization and then influence the functional leader and the C-level executive. And these sales are predominantly working very closely with the sales and the pre-sales folks who engage with them during the trial period itself. So this is how I observed and then found out that right now we are living in a realm of product-led sales, product-led growth, directly working with the users or influencers, and that's SaaS sales 3.0.
No, you said a very relatable story because me being into solutions for 3 years, uh, you reminded me of everything that we were also doing. And there was a time when we didn't understand funnel, ironically, and then we understood what funnel is. So it makes sense. And I really loved how you narrated that entire sequence because it totally makes sense. And it also puts into existence why we have these kind of business. Now I understand more why a Salesforce and LinkedIn would want to be a happy family in whatever ways they would want to be, because yeah, there's so much coming from there for them. And again, like we also kept talking, this is really crazy times that we are living in. And we can reach out directly to the consumer rather than a
Mhm.
CXO or maybe a functional head or something. So
Mhm.
I really loved the way you described this answer. So amazing. Moving on to my second question, which I have for you. And in case you want me to repeat this question, you can let me know. What are
Mhm.
your thoughts on the ratio and the role of female solutions engineer or sales engineer in the current landscape? Like,
So I think just offbeat the conversations that we had earlier, we both commonly agreed that when we started our careers, um, both of our mentors weren't identified by the gender itself, because you had worked for women leaders. I had worked with a mentor who was a woman. So what I see in terms of the ratio that is currently happening with respect to sales or solution engineering is the ability for people to explore themselves, to identify what they are good at, and then apply those skills back to see if they can professionally fit into an ecosystem which actually encourages it. And I feel that sales engineering or solution engineering is the right spot, because by the nature of it, women are easily able to understand a problem and then explain it in a way that it also relates to other women. This is by nature, but by professionalism, when it comes into picture, it makes it easier for them to also communicate the values across the whole ecosystem. So essentially what is happening is, earlier tech was enclosed to a set of users, I may put it that way, because they were more interested to understanding how the tech can really help them in the business world. And when women also started to take up more roles within the workspace, it was fairly straightforward for them to also be interested in tech. And right now, because they were also easily accessible within the workforce, they were able to connect with a lot of people to explore their own interests, to understand how they could fit better in the professional ecosystem with their skill sets being inact to them. And that has to be the one that has to be also maybe developed over the course of time. And I think over the period of time, things just fell in place. The workforce started to have more opportunities for both the genders when they were working on it. And this opened up for more explorations in terms of how technically a person is viable, and then how these technical skill sets can also be transferred as, say, sales skill sets or customer skill sets. And that's how the whole evolution is happening right now. I'm very fortunate to have started my career in a place which wasn't biased like this. So I was given the opportunity to work equally with both the genders. So I don't find a difference in terms of the ratio, but I am encouraging enough for people to try out solution engineering as a function, because most of the people that I've met or worked with either have technical knowledge, or they are in product, they talk with customers really well. They are these folks who love conversations. And naturally, solution engineering is a role that by default fits their personal life and their professional life. So I would recommend people trying out or just knowing about what sales engineering or solution engineering is.
Uh, while I love your entire answer, I want to give one small rectification. And I also, I think that answer froze for me in my head when you said that women can communicate better and stuff like that. Like, I already respect you, but you just snatched more respect from me when you just said that, because many people don't admit that, very formally or informally also, that yeah, females have, it's about just having knacks, man, and in a good way. We shouldn't be, just getting into the fact that, oh, she's a female, so because of that. But it's like in a very respectful way. And all my life, like the first 8 years I was into testing and automation, pure technical things, I always found people around me were men, be it in testing or be it in development. And when I moved on to solutions engineering, again, we were venturing into something new. Solutions engineering was not known, and it still is not known, which hurts me a lot. But we are coming to a better place. And both the organizations that I was a part of, there were not female solutions engineer, which, and I've tried my best to get females in any role that I was a part of. So, and I'm actually very happy that I worked with all these amazing men in my life, good, bad, ugly, whatever experiences professionally come to us, they teach us in a big way. So I'm very happy for whatever way my journey was, and I wouldn't change it for a thing. But I definitely, like you said, I want to have that diversity, on any tech role or pre-sales role or whatever that might be, because we can complement each other and work in such an amazing way. And
Correct. So I also have this analogy. If you go to a racetrack,
okay.
all the race horses have equal chances of winning, and the jockeys are not just men. So there are men and women who are actually riding those race horses. So the race horse doesn't actually know who's riding, but who's giving the instruction and then marching forward towards it. So anyone being in their career definitely will know where they're really good at to be a race horse, and it doesn't matter who they learn from. It could be anyone they are learning from. All they should be focusing on is how they can make their skills better in order to focus on the track and then just run. So technically, whatever skill sets are needed should be gathered along the way, but it doesn't matter whom we learn from or who we get help from or how we take the other as an inspiration and then try to learn from them. So that is something that has really stuck very close to my heart, because I was put in a situation where I had faced criticism. Like you mentioned, I know that it's different for you guys when you are fresh into workforce, but when we are very early on starting to, there is criticisms across the board irrespective of who shares it. But our role in terms of building ourselves at the longer run needs to be more proactive for us to observe it, not take it to heart and make it more personal, but try to observe it, move along the way and see what best suits for us, and then travel along. So that's something that I wanted to share.
That was so deep and wise. And I mean, I also want to say it out loud that that wasn't an easy question to even answer in the most matured way that you did. So thank you so much, Ajay. Seriously, that was so wise. And the analogy was also amazing, because ultimately it's our career and our life in our hands. It doesn't matter where we learn from, how we learn from. It doesn't matter if sometimes we feel, oh, other person is gifted because they are extroverted or introverted, all the kind of things that we do.
Yeah,
But it's ultimately in your hands if you want to do
correct.
anything out of it.
Absolutely.
It's such a simple
I know
question.
that was I didn't
Oh,
take it as a tricky question, but I want to challenge myself to see how I would want to respond to it. And I just explained or maybe articulated in a way that if I were to explain to myself, this is how I would do
that's
it.
the best way to do it. That's the best way to do it. I mean, I usually think if I can't make sense to a small kid, then probably I haven't understood it myself.
Impossible.
Yeah, that's how I see. Like, if anything, people, I think, underrate simplicity, because simplicity is
Mhm.
the most difficult thing.
Correct.
It is
Absolutely.
such a difficult thing. So, anyways, we can dwell on this more and more. But I have another question for you, which is very personal with
Mhm.
you, as in when I say personal. So, my final question for you is, how difficult it was for you to transition from a pre-sales role to becoming a founder?
So I'll tell you where the difficulty was. Changing on LinkedIn saying that I'm a founder. But but the rest of the path was not difficult, but I think I was that race horse trying to learn what I really liked. So my previous experiences at the both companies gave me access to how products were built, how sales were made. I was put into SMB sales teams, mid-market sales teams, enterprise sales teams. I was able to, I wanted to learn. So that was my primary ideology for me to be here where I am right now. So when I wanted to learn, it started with sales. Then I worked backwards to understanding what pre-sales is, how they are working. And then because I was selling the product, it was really important for me to have a really good knowledge of what the product does, even though there are regular release cycles. I worked with the customer success team because I was the primary point of contact who closed the deal. And then I made sure that they were in the safest hands when they started using the tool. So they'll remember the whole experience as seamless rather than just being one person in a team trying to make some money. And when I started working with marketing team to focus on my leads, I understood their point of view on how they are pushing the software in terms of to the market they were working on. So all of these experiences essentially helped me connect with a lot of folks to understand and be in their shoes to get better insights. And then along the journey, this actually amplified. So during my first few years, I learned from few people. Then I jumped across different set of people from the same team to understand their outputs. Then I completely shifted my role, did a sales hybrid role to understand at every junction how the team worked, because we were also exploring a newer market, what kind of things from the leadership management was expected and why were they expecting in such and such period of time. So all of these were essentially learning bits that I took out. And if I again run this parallel to a university, I started the university with all the general courses. Then I specialized in few things. Then I took electives to understand the things that were really good to me. And I also, before I started Prescale, I reached out to a lot of folks to actually validate the problem statement, which I would consider as the final year's project that we are trying to do.
Yeah.
If the project had not such a good response, I would not have become a founder. I would have maybe done a master's or a PhD in terms of being at different companies and still trying to learn more. But for me, the first project that I did outside eventually had a proper problem validation. And that's when I realized, okay, fine, see, you have graduated, you know only certain things, and the rest of the things you'll have to learn in the job. So I took the shift, slowly started building the product, and right now we are a 13-member team. We work with US customers, and we are a remote team too. So that's how I approach the whole founder journey.
And you say all of that with a big smile on your face, as if all of it was so easy. And some way, I don't want to take anything or any credit away from you, but I just want to add to the genuineness of the story, because last year, of all the different solutions engineer in my company that I was working that time, you could have approached any of them, but you reached out to me and you were like, Shruti, we are creating something. Do you think this would make sense and this would help solutions in years life day in day out? And I know how difficult it is when you send out a cold email or just try to connect with somebody. And I was like, I can at least talk to him and understand. And I was just mind blown the way you reached out to me and then you were demoing things to me. And I even tried to say a word or two about you in my company. But again, we understand the solution
Yeah,
how
yeah.
things and how the cookie crumbles or not. But I was just so mind blown by the way you had approached me. And you are absolutely right when you said that you were trying to understand if this is even making sense or not, because you were kind of like beta testing your thing with me. And I'm
Correct.
definitely sure it was not just with me but with different people from different places as solutions engineer or maybe some other roles, and you're just trying to see that is this even making sense to them. So
Yeah, absolutely.
I am so
So
happy
it's
for your
It's
journey.
again the journey. Yeah. So it's again the journey where so personally, what I felt is that at any point in time to take any decision, there'll be 10 different parameters needed. But in reality, if you consider what you have at hand and in the table, it'll be just one or two parameters that you will have at hand. So it's the kind of not intuition, but the maximum effort that you can put outside of making the decision to understand the problem statement and the values better, and then make the decision, is something that I initially invested time on. So I think that was the primary reason for me to weave through whatever I've told you in very simple format. But I took a lot of time to not fuss about the 8 other parameters, which was
Yeah.
not at my hand, but to focus on these two things, make sure that I have the best elements in terms of how these parameters are evolving, take the decision, move on, and see if on the longer run, if I can find, say, 3 or 4 other parameters, I'll try to incorporate and see how the decision can be made better. So for me, it's like there is no good or bad decisions. It's just that you made a progressive growth or a progressive decline. It's time for you to just look what has been done and make sure that you either amplify it or set course to the same destination which you're looking at, and just not lose heart about it, because it's bound to happen anyway. We don't have anything at our control. So just enjoy the ride, and if it's going faster, amplify. If it's not going faster, try to pull down some of the windbreakers that you're already putting up, and then course yourself back and start from maybe not the first. You've already made progress, but a slight delay in wherever you want to be.
Again, very simply and beautifully put, but I understand. And in this, I mean, the same thing in my context or my language, I call it risk mitigation, because you're absolutely right. We can't keep waiting for understanding all the parameters, and that is in my language, I think of it as risk mitigation, and that's the best we can do, right? Mitigate.
I think it's not risk mitigation too. I think it's just acceptance. You know it's there. You'll have to do it. There's no other way that you can't skip it. But it's just understanding that there are equal parts of risks and rewards involved, that you skip both of them and just stick to the course. Even if you are rewarded, you'll be like, yeah, because of my journey, even if it's risk, it's because of the journey. So my complete focus is just to make sure that we keep on track and then slowly move things to wherever you want to be.
This has been so amazing, and like you rightly said, we keep talking and we just don't end talking, and then this podcast would not have even happened if we would have not put a pause on our talks. But this was so amazing to finally be able to record this podcast with you. I can't tell you how happy I am, and I'm so proud of you, because your journey is such an amazing one, and it is so amazing to see you grow, Ajay. Congratulations for what you have already achieved in your life, and I'm pretty sure you would be doing more. Any parting thoughts that you would have before we wrap up this interview?
So the parting thoughts that I have for this interview is that us both being in interview here, we took our decisions so that we wanted to make sure that we have something at the end of the day to be more satisfied. And whoever is listening to it or watching to it, it's just one or two decisions that we make on one day, at least to keep you happy at the end of the day. I think people should start doing that. Even it could be like, say, skipping one coffee, or if you're a super coffee addict, having that one more coffee and feeling happy about it. So that makes a lot of difference in the longer run. But at least start with one or two, and life not might be life will be very simple if we start making those things. So I would want to end it there. And again, we are all blessed to be in this space. And I also pray for peace for everyone around us too. So that's it.
On that note, let's speak soon. Peace.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
Shruti. Take
Thank
care.
you so
Bye.
much. Take care. Bye.